Are we live?
Wait a minute, I'm trying to figure out how this. Hey, we're live! Are you guys as excited as we are? Jason, are you as excited as we are?
I'm as excited as I get.
He's excited. You know what? Jason and Eric from the Video Technology Group coming to you live, and we're talking about more website and SEO stuff, right?
Yep.
And I think this is going to be a fantastic segment today because it gets down to the core of how you make search engine optimization work, right? I look at today's topic as this is really the fundamental of how you start having SEO success. You know, when we say SEO, for those of you who don't know, Jason, what's SEO stand for?
Well, it stands for search engine optimization, and that's the process of getting your website found in Google organically. You know, not the paid ads at the top, but somebody does a search relating to your product or service, you showing up on the first page.
Yeah. So when you think about having a website, and as a small business or any business, the ideal scenario is that when people want your products or services, they do a search on Google or Yahoo or one of the search engines, and ideally you come up at the top of the list, right? So that when you have a customer or a prospect, they find you very quickly and you guys can transact, right? So search engine optimization refers to the way in which you improve a website and do both on and off page improvements so that you can be found first on the search engines. Okay, so today's topic, which I haven't unveiled to you just yet, I'm keeping it a mystery, is really focused on the cornerstone. What has to take place to start creating the potential for search engine optimization success? So the potential to appear high on the search engine so that people can find you and transact with you, right? The cornerstone is the website.
Yep.
Right? And Jason and I have seen it for years. We're old dogs in the I called you old.
I am.
See? You didn't even react to that. So I was like, man, you've accepted it. See, I haven't accepted it yet. I'm still trying to look a lot younger than I really am. But we're dinosaurs in the internet world because we've been at it for so long. We've been doing this for a long, long time, and we've seen a very common mistake happen to small businesses when they think that they want to appear high on the search engines and be found by prospects and customers. And that is having the wrong website engine, we'll call it. The wrong website foundation, right? So I wanted to talk a little bit about that today, because if you get started if you put the best cornerstone out possible, then it makes building the rest of the infrastructure much more attainable, much more successful. So we're going to talk today about what it takes to have a good website foundation and how that parlays into search engine success. Some of the things you don't know happen if you choose the wrong website tool. Okay, so let's review some of the different website options, right? So if you're a small business owner, you have a couple options for building a website, right? Give them one of those options, a common option.
So there's a number of different options, but there's a lot of free or next to free options. So Wix, Squarespace, custom websites, of course. Maybe Yellow Pages or Super Pages, sold you one of their sites. If you're a medical practice, dentist, OBGYN, doctor, there's a lot of, I call them doc-in-the-box type websites where maybe a dental practice specialty firm will, have you choose one of their 10 templates, and, that's your website. They put your info on it. So those types of websites are what we're talking about. Lots of different options.
And these would probably be in what category? I would call that the DIY category, right?
Yeah. So the free ones or the really cheap ones, there's Weebly. I could go on, but that's we have some people that do it themselves, or maybe a family member of the person will hey, I can do one for you. I'll create a website for you. And it's super cheap. And they get a website up, which is better than nothing. But yeah, that's generally how those take place.
Yeah. So whether it's free or whether it's a do-it-yourself website creator tool, those are very common solutions for small businesses that are available. So small business doesn't have an abundance of resources typically, and so they've got to be creative and be cost conscious. So a lot of people select the DIY or the free solution because to them free is better, right? And what we know is that in the search engine optimization world, in the internet world, website world, free is not necessarily better. And the do-it-yourself options are also not necessarily better because to use those, to leverage those tools, you have to know a little bit about what you're doing, right? It's like, would you want to go perform, knee replacement surgery because you had a tool that taught you how to do it, right? Would you do that on your spouse because you wanted to save a few bucks? Well, no. And that's an extreme case because we're talking about medical situations and whatnot, and pain and things like death can result in, things not going right. This isn't a life or death situation, but it is a life or death situation in terms of your online identity. And so the DIY approach, where you can log on and try to figure out how to develop your own website, if you don't know what you're doing and how to modify that tool to create a successful SEO foundation, you are going to limit your opportunity, and you're going to actually, I see a lot of people that use those sites and then they go spend a bunch of money on search engine optimization, and it costs them twice as much to fund the work that it would take if they just selected the right tool in the first place. And so they end up spending even more money on a monthly basis than what it would have required if they just would have done it right from the start.
Right, and let me interject there. So we've had a number of clients in the past that have come to us with, one of those type sites, and I won't, name specifically any types of sites because, it could happen with any of them. Most of the site builders are restricted to a certain aspect for us to be able to access or do certain things, and that ends up being a hindrance. So it might be, the difference between ranking for a particular key phrase and, 3 months versus, hey, I can't do this, and this because they're on this site platform. Well, now it's going to take us a lot longer. So it did end up costing them more, or potentially, could hinder the rankings overall anyway. Maybe we'll rank them for 6 months, but because we can't do X, Y, and Z, well, this is the highest we can get them. We're not going to get them up here. And it's things like that we run into with some of those platforms.
Yeah. Well, and I think the point there is that those website tools are free. Oftentimes, in my experience, they're free and they're minimal cost because they don't provide the necessary functionality to do it in a serious way. So meaning they might not really create a tool that you would use to have an optimal level of search engine optimization success because they're just trying to build an effective website creator to help people make that tiny first step, right? So, we've seen, and I've watched Jason as he's helped clients that have an infrastructure like that just really struggle over time to achieve search engine success because the tool is limiting him and his ability to do what he needs to do to have a successful campaign or create a positive return on the investment that the client's making in search engine optimization resources.
Yeah, and most of the time, in the past that we've had clients like that, we make it perfectly clear in the beginning when we get started with, someone in that situation that, hey, we might not be able to reach our goals of this. And down the road, they say, well, it'll be fine. Let's go ahead and try it and see what happens, because they're watching their budget, which I completely understand. But down the road, more than half of them end up converting over to
internet connectivity isn't great.
Okay, I think we're back.
Are we? Okay. For some reason, internet connections kind of struggle. So, one of the points I wanted to make in terms of other website solutions that may limit people from a search engine optimization perspective, in my mind, is the small boutique 1 or 2 person shop that's typically run by a graphic designer. In our experience, a graphic designer has gone to college, and I'm going to talk about this group because I'm one of these people, and that's actually how Movidia started. Okay, so present company included, I was a graphic designer, and I started my design career, and I got into web design. And at the time, I knew a lot about making pretty stuff, but I didn't necessarily know a lot about making functional stuff. And back then, because I'm a dinosaur, remember, this is back in 1996 when I started, I didn't know anything about search engine optimization. Search engine optimization hadn't really surfaced yet. But the 1 or 2 person shop that's really good at design, but they're not great at search engine optimization. And what typically happens in those settings is they might be fantastic people. They may be a relative. They may be a friend or even a coworker at another former coworker, something like that. They're good people, and they give it a really valiant effort. But what they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And so it's the whole category of they don't know what they don't know website solutions. Right, so it could be the 1 or 2 person shop that's moonlighting or doing it even maybe they hung their shingle and they decided to start a design company. They're going to design websites, and that's great, but they oftentimes don't understand search engine optimization, the ins, the outs. They haven't been studying it near as long as we have, and they create something that may look beautiful but may limit that individual, that business, in some of their search engine goals.
Right.
And the unfortunate part is the person designing the site, executing that project, can't explain what's not happening because they don't know.
Right.
So, can you think of some scenarios that have happened in settings like that where the person has they've gotten that small boutique shop to design a site and some of the common pitfalls that you might see in those kinds of solutions?
Well, none that pop at the top of my head right now, but
I'm thinking of things like maybe not using, whether it's, I'm thinking of the on-page stuff. Some of the on-page things like tagging pictures.
Okay, so
or graphics, or some of the things that you weave into
right.
the design of the site.
Right. Actually, I do have a recent example of that. So, had a client that was ranking, fairly well, that we, started to help, and we helped them for about 6 months, ranking on the first page for a number of phrases, and they decided to have someone they knew redesign their website. They had to watch their budget, and I know so and so, he's so and so's sister or whatever, and we had a lot of that. And she had her own, web design company, and she just her. So did the website, and the website looks good, but she broke most of the things that we had already been working on, for one, and first page rankings to page 3 and beyond disappeared off the face of the earth in Google. And I got to looking at it, and a lot of things just never got implemented like that. Because web designers are typically really good at web design. Internet marketers are good at internet marketing. I couldn't design a website to save my life. So I understand that, but there's that lack of communication in this particular instance,
Mm-hmm.
or
and
just the fact that they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And there's a number of things that you have to keep in mind when getting a website redesign. There's just a long list of things that you need to be aware of.
Yeah, it's gone are the days where you just build a nice looking website, right? Now, all the things that you have to keep in mind, consider, are, include things like historically, what has that page done? Because Google's tracking you and Google knows that history. How the website's built, I call it the fabric, the stuff that's woven into the website from a code perspective to make it SEO friendly. And the point is that if the person is a designer, they could be an effective designer, a poor marketer, a poor SEO expert, and as a result, you suffer. In this case, and I'm glad you remember this because I had forgotten about this scenario. I think I know what you're talking about. Is we had been working for this client and worked with them for a long time, and they continued to grow, continue to improve their search engine optimization and their search engine rankings and whatnot. And quite frankly, they decided that, and we've had this happen more than once, but they decided that maybe they could trim the budget and do some of it themselves. And so they tried to do that.
Well, and let me pause right there.
Yeah.
They decided, because they were ranking so well for things, I mean, just across the board, they thought they could stop and just save the money.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what happened. Oh, we're at the top. Why do we need to pay this money?
We've gotten there.
Okay, that's fine. We would recommend maintaining.
Yeah.
And that's.
But in this case, they had someone else come in, like Jason said, didn't know SEO, and you saw them plateau, and then statistically, you saw them do this. And they just started going like this, and their search engine rankings just kept, and now, we're working with them again and trying to help them restore those. And it's not just as easy as flipping a few buttons and getting things pointed in the right direction. So there's a category of they don't know what they don't know. So if you're out there looking for a website solution, someone to help you, know that if you two common pitfalls, the DIY website, that you go in and build it yourself. You don't know everything. You would be operating on doing knee replacements, right? Because you don't know what you're doing. Well, if you don't know what you're doing SEO-wise and website-wise, maybe you shouldn't be doing it. It could limit you. It could prohibit success long-term. And then in the they don't know what they don't know category are the people that can accomplish one part of it, but not all parts. And as a result, your small business is going to suffer. A lot of times, you're going to have to redo things, which means you got to reinvent the wheel and go and shoulder those costs again. And no one likes to spend money and then have to redo it, right? So DIY, then the don't know what you don't know category. If you can stay away from those types of scenarios, really make sure that the person doing the work knows what's going on short-term and long-term, and you're going to have a much better foundation for SEO success. So with that, a couple more minutes before we close, but what would you recommend? You are the SEO guru, known you for years, excellent at what he does, and knows, I don't know anybody that knows search engines better than Jason LeBlanc, but what would you use? If you were creating a small business, I'll say it that way, if you were creating a small business tomorrow, you were going to go use a tool, what would you use?
I would probably build it on WordPress.
Okay.
Which is, that's what we build our websites on, and that's not just because that's what we build it on. I recommended that before NVIDIA decided to build with WordPress exclusively.
It's one of the reasons we selected WordPress is because the
I
SEO
like it.
expert
Right.
said, hey, we can have great success with this tool for our clients.
Yep, very flexible. Excuse me, allows us to do whatever we need to do, both in designing and customizing a website, as well as getting it ranked. I mean, possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
It's
The WordPress platform has really become a staple for website developers and SEO gurus like Jason because of how easy it is to use, how flexible it is from a search engine perspective, and just how all-encompassing that tool is. So we at NVIDIA, when Jason and the team came and said, we need to use WordPress, I asked, well, why? Why? And they laid it out, and we said, well, it's obvious. The direction should be WordPress. So
one quick thought. So if anybody is unfamiliar with what that is and goes to check out WordPress, WordPress has you can do a free site with WordPress. So you could create your ericbarnland.wordpress.com, and you can go create your own little website or blog. Well, that's meant more for like a personal blog or something like that. You can buy your own domain name and tie it to that, but that is severely limited. When we use WordPress, we use the mechanical,
good point.
behind the scenes foundation of the website. It's the mechanical part, and we design and construct our website built upon that, not the free .wordpress.com type website.
WordPress grew and became well known in the blog world.
Yep.
WordPress was a blogging tool, and that's where it started, and for a long time got a bad name because people didn't understand that there was a highly functional, very website-oriented component to that tool that allowed people to build very successful websites, and they thought, well, this is just a blog software, so why would I use that? Well, it's really transcended, and the WordPress community has developers have poured into developing new functionality and new features that ultimately you get the leverage as a WordPress user. And so it's not just a blog software anymore. Get that out of your mind. It's some of the biggest websites on the internet and large corporations that you know of. I wish I can remember a few of them, but like Chicago Bulls use WordPress, and people like that, or organizations like that. So it's not just for the mom and pop shop. It's highly functional, both from a website component perspective and a search engine optimization perspective, and that's what we're talking about. So watch out for the DIYs. Be careful of the people that don't know what they don't know, the service providers, and try to use WordPress if you can. Find a WordPress developer. Movidia Technology Group is a WordPress developer, and Jason and his team are very successful using that tool. So if you have a website needs, we'd love to chat with you and break that down and figure out how we can solve your issues and help you generate more sales, more customers, more activity to your website and to your organization. With that said, this is Jason LeBlanc. I'm Eric Barnland from Movidia Technology Group. We hope to see you soon.
If you have any questions, fill out a comment. I'll answer them.
Oh, there you go.
Have a great day.
Oh, can't find the finish button.